This week at the Tiara Talk Show, we welcome back our Cast Member Corner segment in which we speak to past or current cast members of the Disney theme parks from around the world.
Hi, my name is Dylan White.
And we're so glad to have you on the show, Dylan. I actually got to see you perform at Disneyland 2 times, and I want to talk about that. But first, before we do, you're an entertainer and an actor. Can you talk about how you got the theater bug?
Sure. I got the theater bug really, really early. I remember vividly, I was in kindergarten. We did a President's Day show, and all I remember specifically was it had something to do with George Washington, and we were banging on these like little sticks to something rhythmic. I don't remember what. Standing on the stage with the rest of my class in the elementary school auditorium, making these clacking sounds with these sticks for whatever reason, looking out at the audience, and I remember specifically that moment going, I really like being up here. And so I've done everything I can to keep getting up on stage ever since.
And you must have done a couple of high school musical shows and in college as well, too?
Oh, more than a couple, yes. I did musicals, of course, in the plays at my own high school. Plus, there are 2 all-girl schools not too far from where I went to high school. And, of course, because they're all-girl schools, they had to import boys to play some of the boy roles. So I did my own high school shows, and I did shows at 2 other high schools as well.
Did you have a most favorite role you got to play during that time period of your life?
2 come to mind. I played Albert Peterson in Bye Bye Birdie twice, once at my high school and once at one of the girls' schools. And I got to play Snoopy in You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown.
And speaking of fun musicals, I loved Aladdin at the Disneyland theme parks. I was very, very, very impressed, and I love it. And you played your best friends / you played the role as Genie for almost over 10 years. My goodness,
for just over 10 years. And I am allowed to say that I played the role of Genie because in that show, we weren't the character. How some people are friends with the characters in the park. We weren't those characters. We were the actors portraying those characters in a show. So yes, I can say I played the Genie in Aladdin: A Musical Spectacular for just over 10 years until the show closed.
And were you in the beginning cast, or did you come on just maybe a few months after that show began?
I came in a couple years after, a little over 2.5 years after the show opened. Because the show ran for almost 13 years to the day. Had we gone another 6 days, we would have gone 13 years to the day.
The Genie is the show, in my opinion, and so it's always great to see you guys. You guys are able to change the material up as the Genie.
There were a couple of the guys who played the role who would have really great jokes, and they were very funny, but the way they played the role is what made the joke funny. The way I played the role, I couldn't have made the joke as funny as they did. So, we might have even pulled from the same source material, like if we'd done a Kim Kardashian joke or a Justin Bieber joke or whatever, we might tell a different version of the joke that would fit however we played the role. Or we might even do it in a different place in the show. But it was very collaborative, and it was a great bunch of guys to work with. Genies came and went, and at any one time, there were about actually 7, I think maybe 8 Genies, say, on the roster. A couple of us, were the full-time guys. There were a couple who were, filling in the other days, and then there were the call-ins, some of whom also played other roles in the show, so they could switch in and out. But at the top of the day, there was always 2 of us in for the day. We split the day, and we would come in. Whoever the second Genie was would, come in to see the first Genie as he was getting into the makeup and say, okay, what's new today? Are you working on anything new? And they'd bring something up or, and to say, I have an idea for a joke, and we'd work on it together. I'm doing this joke here. Oh my gosh, that's hilarious. Have to try that. But then we had this other rule of thumb was if a Genie came up with a joke and had an idea for a joke, another Genie couldn't tell that joke until the one who thought of the joke told it on stage first. Yeah, we got to play quite a bit. It was a lot of fun.
And the makeup process, you mentioned that. How long did it take? Because you are putting on that blue makeup.
It was anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour on average. And we didn't do it ourselves. Disney contracted makeup artists to come in and apply and remove the makeup for us. And we were getting touch-ups throughout the show as well, because you're running up and down those stairs in Friend Like Me and dancing in 2 numbers back to back and wearing the the big heavy fat pad costume, you tend to sweat a little bit and some of the paint will start to run. So there are a couple times during the show that, we run out and even get touched up during the show.
And there's stunts, there's magic tricks, there's all these cues that you really need to get down pat for the magic to be consistent throughout the show. There's trapdoors and all this good stuff. So I know there are plenty of times where there's going to be mishaps and you got to work with what you got. So Can you talk a little bit about some of those mishaps?
There are the worst case scenarios where something technical will happen and it will cause the show to either stop or cancel completely just because something doesn't work or it's put, safety in danger or something like that. Those are the more serious ones. But sometimes like little things will happen. And the beautiful thing about that show and playing the genie in that show is that you're allowed to break the fourth wall and comment on it or reference it or play with it or make something that's like, oh, that was a bad thing and turn it around into a really funny joke. And there's also the added enjoyment of the fact that the rest of the cast doesn't break the fourth wall. They are in that world, and they have to hold it together while something really funny is going on. And the audience enjoys that, just watching these people try to play it so straight we can see them stifling laughs. That's a lot of fun, too.
Well, what's one of the ones that actually comes to mind when the cast almost couldn't even hold it together or just didn't?
I mean, that's happened quite a few times. There's one that comes to mind early on when I was in the show, early in my tenure with it, I'd come up with this run of jokes. We were watching the 40-Year-Old Virgin backstage, or we were talking about it. We were talking about that, and there was that whole riff between Paul Rudd and I can't remember who else it was, and they would just go back and forth with that. I was joking, saying it would be so funny if I said to Jafar in that moment with Jafar when he gets his wishes, "You know how I know you're evil." And then just giving all these examples. And Lance Roberts, who currently, he's on Broadway, and I can't remember what he's on Broadway with now, but I mean, once he left the show and he went to Broadway, he's been consistently working on Broadway ever since. But he was the Jafar at the time, and he looked at me and he said, "Challenge." I'm like, oh man, now I got to come up with this whole thing. So when we did the show together, I came out and I just had this riff of, you know how I know you're evil, you know how you know you're evil, and one thing after another. And he would start shaking, laughing, until finally I hit him with one that out of context doesn't seem particularly funny. But I said, you know how I know you're evil? You think Ursula from The Little Mermaid is hot. And he completely broke, doubled over, holding on to his little snake staff, just shaking, laughing. I felt so proud of myself because he challenged me and he didn't think I could do it and break him. And the audience is dying, and the whole cast is back. Like the guards are supposed to be frozen, and they're shaking. That was like the first one. I mean, there have been in 10 years that I did the show. There were so many after that, where something would come up, and you just get to make a joke, and it was great when it hit, and just watch the audience and the whole cast just get, be on board with it and just laugh.
I really do miss the show, and I can only assume you miss it too. You ran for it over 10 years. What have you currently been working on now? Because I know a lot of listeners want to hear the latest and greatest on your end.
Well, in terms of my life at the world of theme parks, I am currently the Hogwarts Express conductor at the Wizarding World of Harry Potter in Universal Studios Hollywood. So I'm there occasionally. So I've had many Aladdin fans come and find me in front of the train and say hello to me and take pictures with me. And that's been a really great opportunity to get a lot of people, to get to meet a lot of the fans of the show. Also, I'm down at Knott's Berry Farm occasionally on Monday nights for the summer as the ringmaster in the new show, The Circus of Wonders. So that's a lot of fun. On top of that, I've gotten back into stand-up comedy. I'm performing tonight at a club out here in Los Angeles. And been performing comedy pretty consistently the past couple months, which has been a lot of fun. And I'm an author. I've been writing a lot on the side as well. I'm working on a comedy screenplay. It's kind of like a comedy action adventure. And I have a couple ideas for comedy TV shows. I developed one last year with a former Aladdin cast member, Jolene Purdy. We'd come up with a sitcom idea for her that we were starting to pitch to like her agency and everything like that. And we wrote that together. And then she got cast in Orange is the New Black, and she's on the new season of Orange is the New Black. So she ended up going that direction, and we've got this on the back burner if it ever comes up. But that was a project I work on. But most of the stuff I've been writing has not been necessarily comedy. There are comic elements to it, but I've actually been authoring books. I have a trilogy of a young adult paranormal romance about a 17-year-old girl who falls in love with the ghost that's haunting her house. Ooh. And I'm currently working on a young adult science fiction action adventure.
And is there a way we can actually purchase these books? Like listeners could head to your website?
Yes, actually. They're all available. The links to all of them are available on my website, www.dylanwhite.com. And the links to them are on the various book pages. They're available on all digital formats, Kindle, Apple iBooks, Kobo, Barnes & Noble, and all the links are there on my website. And you can order paperbacks of them as well. Also, the link is there on my website through Amazon. So if you go to Amazon as well and search, my name and the Apparition series, it all pops up, and you can either order the digital copies or the paperbacks or both. And the new series, the science fiction series, the first book is tentatively and probably will be called The Orion Abduction. That will be available before the end of the year. If you were to go to my website and you want an autographed copy of any of my paperback books, go on my website, shoot me an email, ask me, how you can get one. I reply to everyone until I get completely overwhelmed, which fortunately has not happened yet. But I will reply to any email I get, and if you want an autographed copy, I'm more than happy to, have that done.
I truly do miss Aladdin, and I know Frozen is there now, and I know everybody's going to be wondering, Dylan, what are your thoughts on Frozen? What are your thoughts?
Honestly, I was never a fan of the movie. I wasn't a fan of the movie. I hear the show is spectacular. I've seen a good chunk of it on YouTube. It looks beautiful. I have not seen the show, so I can't speak to any of the performances or anything like that. But there are several Aladdin cast members who crossed over into Frozen and are doing that show. And I'm very excited for them, and they're loving it. So I'm very happy that they've found, work and that they're enjoying what they're doing. But that was one thing. That was unique about Aladdin compared to any show that I've ever done. And I know everybody was in the show compared to any show that they've ever done, because we talked about it a lot. Is we weren't just a cast; we were a family. And I know a lot of other casts have said that, and I'm sure it's very true for them. But I have to give a lot of recognition to the cast and crew that I worked with on that show, not just for the, technical aspect and just the incredible talent that went into that, but the environment that was fostered inside the Hyperion Theater. It was so welcoming to everyone who came in, new to the cast, returning to the cast. We continue to talk and get together to this day. I mean, we really were our extended family. And still are to this day. They were and are just an incredible group of people, and I'm so grateful and blessed and honored to have gotten to work and know them all.
And it's amazing to see how the fan base is still so strong. The tradition of theater continues on. This is great because kids get to sit down and see a show, and that doesn't really happen nowadays. So, I can't even thank you enough, Dylan, for being the Genie. It was great to see you 2 different times. And you were wonderful. I was like, yes, go Dylan. And it was great to finally talk with you. So before we end our interview, I have 3 Disney questions I always ask my guests. They're the Fab 3, so we'll start with the Donald one, which is, as a child, what Disney film was one of your favorites to see in the movie theater?
Ooh, The Rescuers is the first one that pops to my mind. When I was a child, I remember seeing The Rescuers in the theater, and I loved it. It was so much fun.
And our goofy question, we're going to X-nay any Aladdin characters in this, including Genie. Okay. What Disney character do you think would be your best friend if you met them in person?
Wow. Oh my gosh, I would love to hang out with Timon and Pumbaa.
And our Mickey question, if I asked you to name any Disney song at this very moment, what immediately comes to mind?
It might be because I just mentioned Timon and Pumbaa, but Hakuna Matata. And I think a lot of that is to become, it means no worries. And as stressed as I can get sometimes, especially once the show closed and what am I going to do next, things tend to either present themselves and things work out. And even still, when I freak out about things and get worried, oh, well, the solution kind of presents itself. I don't know why I worry.
What one word would you use to sum up your experience working for Disney?
Family. And like I said before, from the cast and crew of Aladdin, and just the way working at Disney made me feel, how welcome I always felt, even just outside the show, and the fact that my family and my children got to grow up watching me be the genie. I got to bring them to Disneyland a lot and spend some time with like my own actual family. Working at Disneyland, it's absolutely family, hands down, 100%.
You are a Disney villain. You were like the Disney villain. Do you realize that? I mean, you're like all sorts of Disney villains all rolled into one right now. You've got Scar's thirst for power. You've got Hades' temper. You've got Captain Hook's craziness. You've got Maleficent's dress.